Hello, and thank you for watching this Hexagon Geospatial e-training module, Building Maps that Communicate Clearly. In this module, we'll review multiple methods for the portrayal of population density and review the display variations that occur when applying the same style characteristics to different feature classes. First, we'll generate a range thematic display of county areas that uses an equal count classification technique that portrays 8 separate ranges. The color palette that's assigned transitions from light to dark, where the lower population density is on the light end of the spectrum, and the higher population density is on the dark end of the spectrum. Next, we'll apply the same range thematic technique to a different feature class, the zip code tabulation area, ZCTA features. The ZCTA features represent Postal Service zip code areas and are a much smaller geographic area than the county areas. Next, we'll generate a dot density display of county areas using the dot density function that's available in the functional attributes command. This function generates a collection of points that are placed in the area geometry. Then we'll apply the same dot density technique to a different feature class, the ZCTA features. We'll start with GeoMedia Open with King County GeoWorkspace that has a warehouse connection for data in the state of Washington. Queries for the portrayal of population density and dot density for the county areas and zip code areas have been predefined. Let's begin by reviewing the properties associated with each of the queries that will be used in this workflow. On the Analysis tab, select the Queries command in the attribute group. In the Queries dialog, select County Population Density and click Properties. This query was generated from the county_2010 census_DP1 feature class using the functional attributes command and has 2 output functional attributes defined, area square mile and population square mile. Select area square mile and click Properties. Here we can see that it is calculating the area in square miles for the input geometry. Select all functions in the categories list view and then select area in the functions list view to review the syntax required for the area function. This functional attribute is also using the round function to round the results down to 4 digits. Click Cancel to dismiss the functional attribute dialog. Next, select Population Square Mile and click Properties to see that it is calculating the population per square mile by dividing the total population DP0010001 by the area square mile attribute that we previously reviewed. This functional attribute is also using the int function to round the number down to the nearest integer. Click Cancel to dismiss the functional attribute dialog. Click Cancel to dismiss the Query Properties dialog. Next, review the query .density-county population by selecting the query and clicking Properties. This query was generated from the County Population Density query using the Functional Attributes command and has a single output functional attribute defined, .density. Select .density and click Properties to see that it's using the .density function to generate a collection of points to display in each of the area geometries. You'll notice that it's referencing the functional attribute population square mile that we previously reviewed in the County Population Density query. Select Geometry in the Categories list view and then select .density in the Functions list view to review the syntax required for the .density function. Click Cancel to dismiss the functional attribute dialog. Again, click Cancel to dismiss the Query Properties dialog. Similar functional attribute queries were generated for the zip code areas using the ZCTA_2010 census_DP1 feature class. Select the .density-ZCTA population and click Properties to see the same .density attribute being generated. Begin by adding a thematic legend entry to the empty map window. On the Home tab, select Legends, Add Thematic Legend Entry. For the Input feature, expand the Query Tree view and select County Population Density. For the type, select Range Thematic. For the thematic classes, select Population Square Mile for the attribute to use for the classification and click Classify. On the Classify dialog, select Equal Count for the classification technique and select 8 for the number of ranges and click OK. For thematic styles, select a brown color palette that transitions from light to dark and click OK on the Add Thematic Legend Entry dialog. The resulting thematic display provides a portrayal of population density by county across the state of Washington. This equal count representation illustrates a method of data classification that provides a generalized view of the data distribution that spans across multiple ranges, in this case defined from low density to high density. This view of the data does not take into account areas in the state that are generally not considered when evaluating population density, such as open water features and government lands, national parks, USDA forest lands, etc. Now let's take a look at applying the same thematic representation to a different feature class, one that shares the same attribute definitions but represents a different granularity of population density. Instead of illustrating the population density of county areas, let's see how the postal zip code areas are presented. Continue the workflow by deleting the previous legend entry and then by adding a thematic legend entry to the active map window. Right-click County Population Density and click Delete. Click Yes when asked to delete the legend entries. On the Home tab, select Legends, Add Thematic Legend Entry. For the Input Feature class, expand the Query Tree View and select ZCTA Population Density. For the type, select Range Thematic. For the thematic classes, select Population Square Mile for the attribute to use for the classification and click Classify. On the Classify dialog, select Equal Count for the classification technique and select 8 for the number of ranges. Click OK. For thematic styles, select the outline for each county by clicking the box next to Base Style. In the Select Style dialog from the Boundary selection, click the color box and select Green and click OK. Uncheck Fill and click OK. Again, select a brown color palette that transitions from light to dark. Click the box next to Base Style. Check Fill and click OK. Click OK on the Add Thematic Legend Entry dialog. The resulting thematic display provides a portrayal of population density by zip code areas across the state of Washington. While the thematic classification technique and associated parameters used in this map are identical to the previous county thematic, the results are strikingly different. This is due to the use of smaller geographic areas that render higher calculated population densities in the upper ranges, plus the fact that the uninhabitable areas such as open water bodies and federal lands are not considered in the thematic. If we review the two thematic maps side by side, the difference is obvious. The county thematic contains 39 instances and has a calculated population density that spans from 3 to 837, while the zip code thematic contains 598 instances and has a calculated population density that spans from 0 to 40,285. Now let's take a look at using another method to illustrate population density, a dot density map. The examples that we will review both use the dot density function to calculate the number of dots to display for each feature instance. In this case, it's based on the population per square mile. First, turn off the display of the thematic maps in both map windows. Right-click County Population Density and select Display Off. Right-click ZCTA Population Density and select Display Off. In the map window that contains the county thematic, add the dot density query by selecting Legends, Add Legend Entries, and selecting Dot Density County Population from the query's tree view. Ensure the Shapes legend entry is displayed on top of the dot density legend entry and re-symbolize the two legend entries. Right-click Shape of Dot Density County Population and click Style Properties. Click the box next to Color, select Green and click OK. Click OK to close the Style Properties dialog. Right-click Dot Density County Population and click Style Properties. Change the size to 0.025. Click the color box and change green to gray, then click OK. Click OK to close the Style Properties dialog. In the map window that contains the zip code thematic, add the dot density query by selecting Legends, Add Legend Entries, and selecting dot density ZCTA population from the query's tree view. Again, ensure the shape legend entry is displayed on top of the dot density legend entry and re-symbolize the two legend entries. Right-click Shape of Dot Density ZCTA Population and click Style Properties. Next to Color, click the box and select Green, and click OK. Click OK to close the Style Properties dialog. Right-click Dot Density ZCTA Population and click Style Properties. Change the size to 0.025. Click the color box, change green to gray, and click OK. Click OK to close the Style Properties dialog. Similar to the variation in the previous thematic maps that we reviewed, the dot density results are strikingly different. Again, this is due to the difference in the calculated population density between the county features and the zip code features. Thank you for watching this e-training module from Hexagon Geospatial. For more e-training, please visit hexagongeospatial.com/etraining.